What's going on, y'all? BigRack Russ here, and I know it's been a long time since I've uploaded. I I went on vacation with my girl to Puerto Rico. It was awesome, and then I got back, and midterms hit me like a freight train. So I had to choose: do I, stream and make content, or do I study for my grades? And seeing as I'm trying to get my PhD, I think I made the right decision by studying for my grades. But classes have lightened up, and today we're going to be talking about Dragons Dogma II. But before we get into the video, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. I really appreciate it. We almost had 200 subscribers. Let's keep it going. Thank you to everybody supporting me thus far. Let's go ahead and get today's video. So, Dragons Dogma II. It released a few weeks back, I think on March 21st, I believe. And it's been a pretty hot topic in terms of people really love the game. Some people are having issues with it. Some people are I think unfairly criticizing the game. But we'll get into all that. And I just want to throw in my own 2 cents of the game. So, the first thing we'll talk about is the story, then we'll get into the combat, which I think is the highlight, and then we'll get into some of the issues that I think most people can agree is the biggest, problem with the game so far, at least on PC. The story. So this is the second entry in the franchise, and from what I've, been told and heard, it's essentially the same premise. So there's this dragon that's, terrorizing the land or whatever, and it's going through and murking a village or different villages, and it comes across your character who happens to be the Arisen. Now, the dragon takes the Arisen's heart, or it takes somebody's heart, but it doesn't kill them. That person is now referred to as the Arisen, which is your main character. Meaning the dragon doesn't kill you when it takes your heart, but now you are destined to get your heart back from the dragon, and in so destroying the dragon and also freeing the land of the terror and the rampage that is going on, and claim your place as the rightful ruler of the land of the game. So I think it's a pretty interesting premise. It's cool. I mean, you fight dragons, there's monsters in the world and stuff. And I think it's a pretty cool premise. I mean, the game does a really good job at immersing you into this universe. It's set in a medieval time period or universe, and everybody speaks in this old English tongue. They talk about my lord. There's kings, there's queens, there's lords and oligarchies and all this, or monarchs and all this other ancient stuff, and it really makes you feel like you're in a medieval world. So the immersion, the universe, just the way it's built, graphically the game is super impressive as well. It's really big. See a lot of castles and stuff, and it really just makes you feel like you're in ancient medieval Europe with the way the landscape is shaped out to be. But yeah, that's pretty much I think the gist of the story in the universe. Now let's get into the combat, which I think is the highlight of the game. So this is not your typical RPG. It doesn't play exactly like Elden Ring or Skyrim or any other major open world action RPG. The best way, I guess the best games I can kind of compare it to would be something like Xenoblade Chronicles, Trials of Mana, Tales of Arise. And I don't think these are one-to-one straight comparisons, but more so comparisons that you really rely heavily on your party and the positioning of your player. Now you are in complete control of your character. There's nothing like auto attacks like in Xenoblade or whatever, but one thing that will throw you off when you first get into the combat is that you can't really lock on to an enemy like you would be able to in Elden Ring. You kind of have to position your character in a way that hits, so that your attacks are now hitting the enemy that you want to hit. And then also something that kind of threw me off, and I kind of had to get used to, is that there's no dedicated dodge button for most of the classes. There's one class, I think the thief class, where it has a dash ability, which is kind of like a dodge. But the only way to really dodge is just to run, away from the enemy or jump out the way of some of the attacks. So your positioning is very, very key. Like I said, it's not auto attacks like Xenoblade, but similar to Xenoblade and Tales of Arise and other, RPG games that are party based. You kind of have to really play your positioning out, really think about where you're positioning before you head into battle, which adds another layer of I think being tactical in your approach, which is really cool. But you are in complete control of every single one of your character's movements. There's no auto attack. You control all the attacks. You're in complete control of your character. Now, adding into that combat, there's this thing called the pawn system in the game. Essentially, any NPC in the game that's already there, you can recruit into your own party, and you can command them to play how you want them to play. So they can be aggressive, they can be support, they can be cautious or balanced. It's up to you how you want them to play, and it really makes it feel like you're on a team. After beating an enemy or winning a fight, your team will like high five you, or like a member of your team will high five you. And another really cool thing about the pawn system that I think should be praised is the attention to detail when it comes to that. So two things I want to touch on when it comes to like the pawn and like why I think the attention to detail is so strong and should be praised. Number one, there's a lot of different NPCs that are already created by Capcom that are just in the game for you to recruit. And then on top of it, there's kind of like a co-op feature, not real co-op, but like people can essentially create their own pawns, because you do create like your own sidekick essentially in the game, your own companion, and you can open that up to other players to recruit. And the coolest thing, like I've seen in other people's like videos and clips on TikTok and Twitter and stuff like that, people have created like Kratos in the game, characters from Baldur's Gate 3 like Shadowheart and Asterion, and I think that Githyanki character, I can't remember what her name was, but like it was so cool seeing like other people like legit create stuff. And that's another thing, like the character creation really goes deep and is very well fleshed out, and you can create whatever kind of character you want. Also, little cherry on top, the black hairstyles and creation is really dope, because in most games we usually only get like the cornrows or the fro or like the skin fade, but there's definitely a lot of different hairstyles for the black characters, and just in general you can make whatever type of character you want. So that was really, really cool to see. So like I said before we head into the section, the combat is the true highlight of the game. You can jump on the different enemies, there's different character classes, there's 4 different classes total, and you can switch them at any point as long as you're at like a rest area where you can switch your vocation, they call it. So the cool thing about this is that you can work and progress your vocation or your class, and when you switch to another class, let's say you want to go back to it, all your progress from that class is saved. So you don't have to start all the way over or respec your skills or anything. Everything that you accomplish with that class in terms of leveling up and progression is saved, and you can switch between the different classes at any point. And you might need to do this if there's like an enemy that you want to face where you want to take a more ranged approach and let your party members do all the heavy work for you. So maybe you want to switch from a fighter to a mage so you can cast spells from afar and let the rest of your party and command them to weaken the enemy, so you can just slowly whittle down their health as a ranged character. In my personal opinion, I think the ranged characters are not as engaging. Like I said, they're really useful for keeping your character safe and casting spells or shooting arrows from afar. I think the most fun classes are the melee based ones. So I think there's the fighter class and then kind of like a thief class. Fighter class, kind of your balanced knight type of character, and your thief plays really fast, kind of lower health but moves really fast and does a lot of attacks and has more stamina, and their attacks and abilities don't use as much stamina as like the fighter or what have you. So those are the 2 most exciting classes in my opinion, and I really like how you can jump on different enemies, hit their weak points, you can stab them in the face, you can jump on a griffin and it'll take you out. Like there's so many crazy things that happen in the game. Like you just know like jumping on the enemy is like really fun, but if that enemy like swings wildly, they will throw your ass off. So it really makes each combat encounter engaging. And like I said, since there is no lock-on feature and you really have to be, it's kind of like a skill, like kind of like a learning curve to it. You have to like position your character in a way where you're able to execute most of your attacks. So you add in the fact that you have the pawn system, you can recruit basically any character in the game. You can also recruit people's created characters and recruit them into the game, or their created character into the game to be your companion, and you just make for a really fun, really dynamic combat encounter no matter like how you decide to play the game. So this is kind of where my praise kind of ends for the game. I'm going to talk about some of the issues that I had with the game and why I ultimately ended up refunding the game. Don't get me wrong, still a great game, but the biggest problem with this game, at least on PC, is just the optimization is just not there, y'all. Like when I first booted up the game, it took about 10 minutes for me to get off of the loading screen. So the game opened up and I was clearly in the game playing it, but like it was like a weirdly long loading screen that I had to get through before I even got to the main menu. And then when you get into the game, once you finish making your character and you get into the world, there's just like an instant notice and like stuttering and frame drops, and it was just, I'm not, I play on PC, and I do like to play games at high or ultra settings if I can, but I'm fine with games that that don't have graphically demanding engines or super intense graphics. As long as the game works well and runs at least 60 FPS, I'm cool. Or even if the game is locked at 30 FPS, as long as it runs smoothly, I have no issue with that. I'm not really a snob as long as the game is good. But that's the problem. The game doesn't run smooth, and it makes it hard to enjoy the amazing combat and the story that I talked about when you can barely play the game. The game has crashed on me numerous times. I've had to restart because either the frame rate was like dipping or stuttering. It looked like a slideshow. Even when I wasn't streaming or recording, I just noticed like it's just not well polished, particularly when you get to like a densely populated area. Whenever you go to like a town or a village, the frame rate just drops and the game just like struggles a lot in those areas. It kind of reminds me of when Assassin's Creed Unity came out, and it was super cool to see like, oh my gosh, there's like so many different NPCs on the screen, and like it's like a living, breathing world. But at the same time, it was the main thing that was making the game struggle to keep up and maintain its frame rate and maintain its smoothness. So that's probably the biggest issue. And then another like weird technical thing I noticed, at least on PC, again, this is mainly PC, I don't have a console, is that outside of like the scripted cutscenes, when you go and talk to somebody in the world and like have an in-game dialogue conversation with somebody, I noticed that like it seems like the lips and the facial animations of the person you're speaking to is not synced up with the actual like sound. It felt like they were talking either ahead of or behind the words that were actually coming out of their mouth, and it was just like really weird. And I'll pull up a clip of what I'm talking about. This is like, let me know if you notice this or if I'm just being nitpicky.
Appears one moment and falls the next, and now you stand before me. Was it you then, the one who was riding on its back? It is a wonder you survived. Accompany me to the stronghold.
But yeah, basically on PC, this game is not playable in my opinion. And before you guys, say, oh, your computer's too weak, I have more than the recommended settings to play this game. So I have a RTX 3060 Ti. I have an AMD Ryzen 7 5700X 8-core processor. I have 16 gigabytes of RAM. I have a dedicated cooler for my CPU as well. Really nice airflow in my computer. There's no like dust or anything. It's not on carpet. It's on, a solid surface. So like I'm doing everything in my power to make sure my game runs smoothly. But for some reason, this game just struggles. And, it's disappointing because the game looks so fun. Like I'm legit jealous of console players because to my knowledge, I haven't heard any issues on console, on PlayStation or on Xbox. So my first impression on the game is that it looks fun, but technically on PC, it is a mess. So if you have a console like an Xbox or a PlayStation 5, go ahead and cop the game. I think it's absolutely worth every bit of the $70 that it charges. Some people were kind of complaining about microtransactions, but all the things that you can buy with microtransactions, you can just earn or find in the game. They're just for people who kind of want to speed run it or may not have the time or want to spend the time to explore everything to get all of those things that you can buy. But it's completely optional. There's no like pay to win aspect of a game you're already paying $70 for. So I think there's plenty of content. So if you have it on console, or if you have a console, definitely pick it up. If you have it on PC, me personally, as somebody who played with it, get it, try it out. If it doesn't work well, you can still refund it. But I personally would just recommend just waiting until they patch the game and until the reviews start trending in a more positive direction. Normally, I don't really pay attention to reviews because, I like to formulate my own opinion on a game. But when most of the reviews are talking about technical difficulties, there's some truth and there's some merit to listening to, other people's experiences with technical difficulties, especially since it's across the board. Like no matter what type of build you have, whether you have like a mid-tier PC, a low-tier PC, or even like a beast of a system, it still just struggles a lot in those, densely populated regions, crashes, frame rate issues. And it's just not done. So I would pick it up on console. If you have it on PC, just wait. But yeah, those are my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think about the game. Do you have it on PC? Are you having issues, or is it running smoothly for you? And I think this game, once it fixes all of its technical issues, I think it's having like a similar type of hype to Elden Ring. I don't think it's nowhere near as popular as Elden Ring, but a lot of people who played Elden Ring never played, you know, Souls games before. It introduced them into a whole new genre of game. And given the fact that this combat system is super unique, you know, it's not like Skyrim or, you know, Elden Ring where you can kind of lock on to enemies and it's, you know, you play it a little differently and you really coordinate your party members and stuff. I think it's going to introduce a lot of people to the series because a lot of people love the first series, and this game may even inspire some people on PC, you know, because they can't play the game. Try the first one out and see how it was. From what I've told people who've played the first one, this game really feels like an improvement and an upgrade on the original. It's not just a reskin. It's not like a, you know, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 reskin, but it's worth every bit of the $70 according to people who, you know, are diehard fans of the original, and they've noticed a significant improvement and, you know, upgrade innovation when it comes to the second game. The biggest issue right now is just technically on PC, it's just not running smooth. So let me know what you guys think. I was having fun with that. I was able to refund on Steam and actually use that money to buy Lies of P, which I am doing a playthrough. So go ahead and check that video out once it's uploaded. And I've been streaming it on Twitch. So right now I'm like kind of doing a series where I kind of go through my Steam backlogs and play some games that I just haven't gotten around to playing. Especially now that class is lighting up, I have a bit more time. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you're new. I really appreciate everybody who's been, you know, supporting me. A lot of you guys are my friends and people I know from school, college that I play ball with. So I appreciate everybody who's been subscribing, commenting. It really means a lot. You know, we almost at 200. Let's try to get to 500 by the end of summer. And yeah, thanks for watching. I hope you guys have a blessed day, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.